Business opportunities are like buses. There's always another one coming. Sir Richard Branson, greetings and welcome to our weekly informative video on the state of commercial real estate. Hard to believe we're already moving towards the latter part of the year here, but I guess that's the nature of time. And in today's video, we're going to talk about three things to take into account as we approach the year of 2025 in this volatile time and interesting time that we're living in. So the first thing that I want to touch on is the fact that, as everyone knows, unless you've been living under a rock, we are in fact in an election year, and this is always going to lend itself to some uncertainty. Certainly there's a time and a place for political discussions, but this video won't be that. What we do know, however, is that federal regulations have a heavy impact on the state of commercial real estate. But we must also remember is that those effects usually don't come into play until the year after. So this would be a time to not get distracted by all of the goings-on in the political realm and all of the rhetoric. Rather, we need to focus on strengthening our positions and continuing to find the opportunities that are indeed and in fact out there. The second point of discussion is the bid-ask spread, which is essentially the difference in perception between value between a buyer and a seller. Our job as brokers in that situation is to close that gap whenever possible. And of course, when the cost of debt is hiked up as it has been for the last couple of years, it changes the dynamics of our net operating income and therefore our deals. And sometimes it can be a challenge to close that gap there. So if you're a seller, one thing to take into account is what your NOI is not going to be what the buyer's NOI is. There might be a chance to add value and increase rents, and of course that's the plan of a lot of operators out there. However, there will be a reconfiguring of certain expenses, namely taxes and insurance, and that's something from a seller you need to understand from the buyer standpoint as well. Lastly, we talk about interest rates. Of course, that's been the hot topic and was the subject of our last video. The general consensus right now is that we probably are looking at a 25 to 50 basis point decrease in interest rates at the Fed's meeting coming up mid-September. Now, is this going to be enough to necessarily move the needle significantly in terms of deal dynamics? Probably not at this point, but at least it gives a signal and lends itself to some optimism that we're trending in the right direction as far as the cost of debt is concerned. Deal volume at this point is up. In New York, it's up 24% roughly, as opposed to the last 6 months, and a lot of the country follows New York in that sense. Now, we do need to be careful, asset class to asset class, submarket to submarket, but ultimately, even in these tumultuous times, there's still a way to win, get to deals, and make things happen. For evaluations on assets, questions, concerns, or referrals to great partners, please don't hesitate to reach out. And as always, stay healthy, sharp, strong, and safe.